less uncommitted was Olympic head coach Bobby Knight, who was concerned that Jordan was not the shooter everyone thought him to be. Then came a particularly brutal exhibition match between the Olympic candidates and a collection of NBA players. What transpired didn't merely confirm Jordan's scoring ability. The game defined the depth of his character and his unmatched competitiveness.
I'll never forget this. Mike Dunleavy came across Michael Jordan's face on a drive to the basket and actually scratched him and cut him. The game got totally out of control. And they go over to the bench, and Michael comes out, and for the next 4 or 5 minutes, the first time in my life, I saw this guy, this Michael Jordan. You know, I mean, he just took over. And wow. And about a week later, we were doing their final game out in Phoenix. And Bob says to me, I'll tell you one damn thing. He will be the greatest player that's ever played the game.
Joe selects Michael Jordan, University of North Carolina.
In 1984, the Chicago Bulls have the 3rd pick in the draft. Houston's big man, Hakeem Olajuwon, goes first to the Rockets. Kentucky's Sam Bowie next to the Portland Trail Blazers.
I'm not looking forward to going in and trying to live up to everyone else's expectations. I just want to go in and contribute the best way I could and, just look forward to whatever the coaches want.
In hindsight, the Bulls are the beneficiaries of the biggest oversight in the history of the Portland franchise. Sam Bowie, though a very talented collegian, has an injury-filled, nondescript pro career. Jordan, on the other hand, is a revelation right away.
Many nights I'd say with about 3 minutes to go, it's time for 23 to go in the phone booth, because that's the only way we're going to pull this out. And here he comes. He'd go in the phone booth. In the last 3 minutes would dominate the game.
Only twice in NBA history has a team won a championship and had the league's scoring leader at the same time. It happened first with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It happened next with Michael Jordan. Both were special for some of the same reasons. Kareem and Michael prospered while keeping all their teammates involved, and both were schooled at historic college programs. But for Michael, there was a missing ingredient for the longest time. As Jabbar had Magic and Russell had Cousy, as the original Celtics and Wrens and Globetrotters all relied on more than one great player, so Jordan would need someone to share the load if he was to find the promised land. And that individual would come from out of nowhere. Back in a moment. Yes, the Chicago Bulls of the 90s did play defense with a capital D. But unlike the other dynasties, they lacked a dominant center. And most seasons were among the most disputatious franchises in the NBA. No matter, what they did have was the greatest player of all time, and his uncompromising will pervaded not just every minute of every game, but every minute of every practice. Example, Scottie Pippen. He would become the invaluable partner, the second superstar Michael Jordan lacked in his first seasons with the Bulls. His presence meant the team had 2 serious options on offense. Not only that, Pippen, like Jordan, could shut people down on defense. But first, he had to pass an important test, and that was to survive practice with the ever-intense Jordan.
Michael made him a good practice player, because Michael killed him every day in practice. And Scottie had to respond. If he had not responded to Michael in practice, we would probably not have made a very good choice.
The acquisition of Pippen was Krause's first key move in building a viable team around Jordan. There were 2 other key personnel moves in 1987. The Bulls made the very athletic but unheralded Horace Grant their second pick of that draft, and Krause hired Phil Jackson as an assistant coach. 2 seasons later, Jackson would take over the team and, in keeping with his character, institute a philosophy that was a bit revolutionary.
Everybody was kind of picking and choosing between what the Celtics and the Lakers were doing. And I didn't want to follow that. I wanted to have something entirely that was unique to what our basketball team was. And I didn't want to call signals or have plays or be in the sideline and telling you guys what to run, because Fred Holzman had never done that.
Jackson wanted an offensive strategy that, once mastered, could almost run itself. A system that during game time would be determined and executed by the players, not the coach.
When the triple post came in, Michael fought it for the better part of a year, and then he realized that he could score even easier in the thing, and that it would make life easier for him. And he went back that summer to North Carolina and worked on post moves. And he came back with some of the darndest things I've ever seen. He came back with a little step-back move that he has.
It would have been easier for Michael to play a one-on-one game. But he went through all of the cuts and passes and set screens and pop out and do all the things that the triangle offense demands. So Michael played within that structure, even though on many occasions he was going through what for him personally was meaningless.
One of the things that Michael was so great at, and Magic was this way too, they got everybody involved. They made sure that everybody handled the ball. You take maybe like a guy Cartwright. He would make sure Cartwright got 4 or 5 shots a game because he knew Cartwright now would rebound better at both ends. He would screen better. He would hustle and change ends better. He would take Cartwright from making an average player and make him play up here because, hey, Michael's passed it to me 5 times. I must be a pretty good player if he's passed it to me.
To me, it's not Jordan's scoring that won championships. It's the defense that Jackson has. It's defense wins championships, in my opinion, in almost any sport. And I don't want to disagree with Phil on anything, but I don't care what the offense was. It will be defense. You have to have a decent offense, of course, but a defense, in my opinion, is what determines the champions.
As great an offensive player as Michael was, he was maybe that good defensively. He would take on the other team's best players, whether it was a point guard, a 2 guard, sometimes small forward, and he would take them out of the game.
There were 6 titles in all, and in that time, Jordan was forever in a league of his own. In that way, he differed from the other great ones. Russell, who had Chamberlain, and Magic, who had Bird. And his Bulls never faced an enduring adversary. However, that there could be a dynasty at all in the modern era is enough to impress another Hall of Famer and Dynasty alumnus.
I think the Bulls' success was a little bit greater than ours, even though they only won 6 championships, because in today's market with free agencies, they were able to keep that team together, whereas we didn't have free agencies. So we were going to stay together anyway. So I think the Bulls' run was very remarkable because of that factor.
What is unquestioned is the unique contribution of Michael Jordan to the Bulls and to the game.
I do believe that there's a possibility that we could have maybe not had one of our players and still won a championship. I don't know if that would have been the case in Chicago. Michael Jordan drove that team, and it was his greatness and his competitiveness that I thought made Scottie Pippen even stronger and made all the other players even better. And that's why he's so unique as a guy.
When you bought a ticket to a Chicago Bull game, you got your money's worth every night. Now, there are very few guys in the history of sports that you can say that about, you know.
He became the accumulation of every player before. Michael Jordan was Bill Russell. He was Wilt Chamberlain. He was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, all the great players. That's what Michael Jordan was put into one package. Yes, he had the body, but he had the discipline, the commitment, the organization, the unbelievable depth of character that would drive him to be the very best.